It's Tech Talk, Tech Talk, Tech Talk, Tech Talk, Tech Talk, Tech Talk, Tech Talk with Mathew Dickerson.
Goodness me. Are you open in the square, Matthew? Are you open?
Yeah. Telecommunications is an essential service. Obviously, we're not encouraging people to come and see us, but lots of people need to have extra communication services. They're now stuck at home. They need extra data. So certainly we're doing a lot of business over the phone at the moment, and people are coming in to get those things tidied up, and obviously we're running through all the standard protocols. But yeah, telecommunications. I mean, Paul Fletcher, the Minister for Communications, actually made a statement last year saying that telecommunications is one of those essential services to keep things going as much as possible when we're locked down.
Yeah, and what happens if it breaks down? I mean, that'd be extraordinary. They've taken away all our hard lines, haven't they, Matt?
That's right. There are so many
what
issues.
Spark decided to do that.
There'd be so many issues if we suddenly saw a complete breakdown of the NBN or the mobile phone network. Yeah, at the moment we need those sort of telecommunication services more than anything.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking to Brad Tucker, our scientist and our astronomer from Mount Stromlo. They've got Science Week underway this weekend, right through the week as well. So science plays such an interesting part in our lives, but don't get spooked by the name. I mean, you deal in science all the time, don't you?
Yeah, that's right, and I find science fascinating. One thing that I love about science is it's a continually changing process. You're always looking for different ways of doing things, and you discover some things.
Whether you want them or not.
Well, that's right, but it's always that process of improvement. What we thought was the thing today in a year, 10 years, whatever it might be, finding out that was a ridiculous thing to do. But science continually evolves, and that's one of the things I enjoy about the whole scientific process. It is continually evolving.
I never thought I'd buy a fridge to tell me I need bread. Well, it doesn't tell you, but it won't be long before fridges speak. I mean, robots rule our lives in so many ways that we don't even know, and they build cars, my goodness me. Well, this QR stuff we've got. Now, we've talked about the origins of it. Some chap in China decided he didn't have anything to do on a weekend, and he invented this thing, which is an extrapolation, I suppose, of a barcode. It's now in use all the time, Matt, isn't it?
Yeah,
all
absolutely.
The time.
We all are experts on QR codes now. A couple of years ago, we didn't know what the funny little square was, but now we absolutely know what it is.
How secure is it?
Well, the QR code itself is just like writing down a series of letters and numbers, and the only difference is our phone can interpret those. So the QR code of itself is secure. It's fine, but it's where it takes you.
What do you mean of itself?
Well, all it is basically...
Is that like your license is secure so long as you've got it in your wallet?
No, it's a bit different to that. The QR code itself is just sitting there, and it really just translates to a series of numbers and letters. So if you saw something written in French, you didn't understand what it was, but it was just sitting there on a page, that's okay. But if it went to a site that was obviously a site that had some malware on it or had information on a site that you were asked to type in, that would be where the problem is. So when you scan that QR code, the QR code, there's nothing wrong with it. But where it takes you, that's the issue. That's where you're not sure. And we did talk about it many months ago now, Richard, where someone was going around sticking QR codes of their own over the top of other QR codes. So when you went to scan into a cafe, it took you to some random site, nothing to do with checking in, nothing to do with that cafe, but it was another random site. So people in good faith would have gone, oh yeah, I'll type my details in there. That's what I meant to do. They wouldn't know that they were typing their details into someone else's site. Now, I have no problems at all that the New South Wales government with Services New South Wales, the check-in process there, they've put as much effort as they possibly can into keeping that secure. But we have seen 2 incidents in the last year where the New South Wales government has been hacked. And so the information that's there that you've put in good faith suddenly is in the hands of someone else who we don't know. Often we don't know with these things. But the other part is just looking where it takes you. And that's the real issue here, Richard. When you do scan a QR code, just have a look. Some people are blind and go, tick, tick, check in, whatever. And they don't actually have a good look at what they're doing, what site it might be, where it's taken them. And that's the big issue here.
Well, when you go up to the QR thing, you open your phone, you turn it on, you go to Services New South Wales, the icon of the app, you shine it at this squiggly little thing on a board outside a shop, and it gives you your details back at you.
If it goes to the Services New South Wales app and you've said, remember my details, it will. But most people actually don't open their Services New South Wales app to scan in. They open their camera. And the convenience of that means you've just got your camera there, so you scan in, and the camera should automatically take that QR code and open the app associated with it. But if it's another type of QR code, one that isn't a legitimate one, you scan that from your camera and it might take you via your web browser on your phone and it might be another site. And again, it could be dressed up to look like the Service New South Wales app. Some scammers are very clever.
How do you tell the difference?
Well, that's exactly the problem, isn't it? You look at it and you have to trust what you're putting there in good faith. But sometimes there'll be something that'll be a bit of a giveaway. Sometimes there'll be a spelling error on there and you'll think, oh, gee, that doesn't look quite right. So you're really just trying to be a little bit conscious of it. The other thing is, even when you go into Services in New South Wales, I've actually seen incidents where I've gone to scan into a site and I've scanned the QR code and then I've looked down and said, this isn't the right site. Or it's the Sydney version of this office where they might have sent out that same QR code to every one of their franchises, for example. Yeah. So you just have to be a little bit, don't be so blindly going through and just scanning, check, scan, look, check. And then I think
where does it go? Official, let's say in a perfect world, in the real world, Mathew Dickerson, where should it go and who sees it?
Sure, let's look at Services in New South Wales. It should go to a database, a secure database in some service that Services New South Wales controls. And it should sit there and no one should look at that. And 28 days later, that information should be completely deleted. So in 28 days' time...
What's its purpose then?
So its entire purpose is...
For tracing, isn't it?
Exactly right. So if someone somewhere has a confirmed case of COVID-19, then they can dive into that database and say, give me a report of everyone where this person's gone and then every other person that's been in those places. The idea is to keep that process anonymous because you don't want...
Now, there was an error in a site. Someone said a certain place was dobbed in, but it wasn't the right one. Now, this comes as that case goes up into Byron Bay, where a clinic was identified, but apparently there was, quote, miscommunication between health and police.
Yeah, right. Well, I didn't actually see that incident, sorry, Richard, but that's the problem, isn't it? You can have that miscommunication, and you'd hate to be labelled a super spreader business. You'd hate to be labelled as a business where people said, don't go there now because they had a case, so obviously the whole place is infected forever. And that's the sort of taboo that people are associated with it. The idea is that the process is meant to be anonymous because you wouldn't want people with pitchforks going down the main street saying, let's go and get Richard Perno because we know that he's a super spreader.
Access. Oh, right. Okay. Go back to my old rule, never assume anything and never trust anyone. Is that what you do?
Basically, just put a bit of common sense on it.
You can't do anything really, right, can you? That's the problem.
That's right. Exactly right.
All right. Try and stay safe. Thank you, Matty.
Thanks, Richard.
Petrol with Mathew Dickerson.
Yeah, my number 1300 66 1251. We'll update you on everything to do with COVID.